that victory against Anderlecht and the subsequent qualification from the group was a victory of squad depth and rotation from David Moyes. I thought it was pretty much an impeccable performance. Now, I've had a little look through some of the comments in the instant reaction when myself and Gio have just recorded our review, and not everybody shares the same opinion, but I thought it was pretty damn good. What I would suggest is if we're disappointed with that, and I know it's not many, but if we are disappointed with that, then clearly our expectations have gone so high that we perhaps can't even remember where we were before. To do that back-to-back is a hell of an achievement. Now, what I'll do is I'll go into a little bit more detail in tomorrow's video with that. For today, I want to focus on a few of the players. I think it's only fair that we start by focusing on Said Benrahma. It can't be easy when you don't feel that maybe you've had the full backing of the manager to go and put a performance in like that. Now, I don't want to make too much of the point and sort of stir on it, but I would feel that Benrahma would certainly think he'd started the season well. He'd started the season well on the left side of midfield. After that, he's played more centrally. I think last night he played on the left of midfield again. I thought he was highly effective. There's a directness about Benrahma this season when he plays in that position that he wasn't there before. I think last season I was frustrated with him. I felt he slowed the game down an awful lot. He doesn't do that anymore. There's a charge for the byline. And not only that, there's an end product. His head is up and he looks to pick people out. All throughout the game, by the way. Just look at the way he picked out Thomas Souček right at the end of the game. He does that run all the time. I'd say that's a hallmark. That's a feature of his left wing play this season. No, not loads and loads of step overs. Just enough of a trick to get past the defender, back to that byline, pulls it back. Thought he linked really, really well with Paqueta. A lot of technical players on that pitch, weren't there? You think of how the ball control and how technical Benrahma is and Paqueta is, and then you also go and then throw Lanzini into the mix. Really good. I was also quietly impressed. Let me put it this way, because quietly impressed with Emerson, because he's okay. He's okay, and that sounds awful, doesn't it? He's better than I thought he was. Let's put it that way. And it's sort of understated way. He's got a pretty solid technique. So when they're doing those triangles, the pass and move, and when the play is building down that left-hand side, in a way it never really did down the right-hand side, just because the technique on the left-hand side during that game was better. It's really quite impressive the way they feel able to lend each other the ball, and there's a sort of rotation of positions there. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good watch. Look, I'm primarily talking about the first half, of course, because Paqueta was taken off at half-time. That in itself is a really, really good thing. I do wonder when it gets... Sorry, my mind's wandering here. I do wonder when it gets to the... I don't know, like when it gets to the knockout stages, when we're the other side of Christmas, how many minutes everybody's played compared to last season. He appears to be managing their minutes really well. There's a lot of times players are playing 45 minutes or 60 minutes. And like Bowen, who I'll get onto in a second, was relieved for the last half hour. Hey, there you go. There's a service you don't get at any other club. He was allowed to rest for the last half hour. That wasn't happening last season. So there's got to be an accumulation of the effects in that, which I think that's pretty good. Bowen played well. Bowen played really, really well. Really sharp. Could have had a hat trick. Okay, maybe that's pushing it. Basically, for him to have a hat trick, he would have had to finish all his goals as well as he finished the one that he did score. But he did sort of kick the air a couple of times. The goal was good. Really, really good. I like the movement for the goal. I like the way it built down the left. I like Emerson's involvement in it. I like Benrahma's involvement in it. I just thought it was a really neat and tidy build-up to it. And the goal was exemplary. Bit of misdirection, which is really useful in and around that. When you're in the area and you're just trying to gain a little bit of an advantage over a defender. Finish was excellent, really good. So, look, we're 2-0 up, relatively early on in the first half. You thought at that point we were going to go and score loads more. Maybe we should have done. And maybe at the end, as I said in the review, 2-1 probably doesn't give a fair reflection of what happened in that game. But it was good. It was really, really good. Now, let's talk about Paqueta. Because I thought Paqueta had a really, really promising game. It's incremental and it's small and it's baby steps, but we're gradually seeing him, I think, get acclimatised and accustomed to his teammates. Before I talk any more about Paqueta, may I please point in the direction of this video sponsor, which is the Spitch Fantasy Football app. Why am I pointing down there? Well, that's where the link is, where you can download it. Why would you choose Spitch over any other fantasy football app? Well, I'll give you 2 reasons why. Firstly, you can win money at it, and secondly, it starts afresh every single game week, which I think is really important. I don't know about you, but when I play fantasy football sometimes, if I start off and have a crap start to the season, I often bin it off. That's the truth of the matter. I think there's just no way I'm going to be able to catch up with those guys who've had a really good start to the season. Doesn't matter with Spitch, you make a fresh team each and every game week. It's not just the Premier League, it's a lot of the major leagues, it's the European stuff, but there's some really, really good prize pools in the Premier League. You've only got to bet a couple of quid, and what you can do is you can put yourself in with a chance of winning any one of up to, I think it's £70,000 worth each and every game week of cash prizes. The link is in the description below. We've also got our own little mini league, little Hammers Chat mini league. That one's free to join. If you fancy doing that, join myself and Gio, battle it out with us. Please use the link below. They'll know you've come from Hammers Chat, and we thank them very much for sponsoring the video. Okay, Paqueta. I think it's really, really good when you get these good players that good players recognise good players, right? It's always sort of stuck in my mind. I mentioned it on these videos on numerous occasions. I used to sometimes watch Di Canio when there were players who weren't on his wavelength who were around him. He used to get frustrated, and I think ever since I remember seeing that, I've always sort of watched out for it. You get the impression that when there are good players on the pitch, like Benrahma, like Lanzini, technical players like Flynn Downs, who we'll discuss again in a second, the players like Paqueta are just going to thrive. I think, however good it was in terms of getting through the group, however good that performance was last night, it was really a mishmash team, and one that David Moyes not threw together. I'm sure a lot of thought and planning went into it. But I think it's fair to say that Cornet would have been in there, which would have strengthened that first. Maybe not the first 11, but it would have certainly strengthened. At some point, he would have featured during the game. I think it's fair to say Antonio would have featured at some point during the game. So we didn't even have all of our second choice players, basically. If you want to say there's an A team and there's a B team, it wasn't even like that was our best version of the B team, but yet still it was highly effective. And I thought Paqueta, and this is what I'm basically tenuously getting to the point here, which I think Paqueta is starting to gel with all players, not just the players he's used to playing with in the first team, but I think actually when he plays in the European team to obviously get his fitness up, I think he's really linking well with a lot of those as well. I just want to say a really good mention to Flynn Downs as well, who I thought again showed that he's ready. That Premier League start can't be far away. It really can't. I understand, we've already discussed it on this channel and different, not just this channel, on our Patreon stuff, and Jack's discussed it on Hammerlytics on Patreon, but I understand why at the moment Souček is going to play. But Downs, there will come a point where Downs will feature. And as I said to Gio, I don't sort of mind if it works out because of the injuries at centre-back, and it does appear that Thilo Kehrer has, I think it's a slight knock. I don't mind a slight knock. That indicates that he'll be okay. I've got a feeling Dawson might be okay as well. He went off injured. But I sort of don't mind if Declan does have to play the odd game at centre-back. I don't mind Flynn Downs playing in there at all. I think the obvious assumption is that it's going to be Souček that misses out for Flynn Downs to play central midfield. Well, maybe, just maybe, it's Flynn Downs standing in central midfield for Declan Rice. Again, I think he'd do okay, particularly with some of the better players around him as well. All in all, I thought that was a pretty damn fine performance. Cresswell was great. Cresswell was really, really good. One of his best performances, it has to be said. Also, I know I mentioned it in the review, Ben Johnson. I think I've got to give him a lot of credit as well. If he's not been involved at the start of the season, he comes in, can play numerous positions. Those players are fundamental to your squad, massively important to your squad. Ben Johnson may well find himself as the new Phil Neville, the Everton version that played under David Moyes, you understand. Also, Areola, I mean, all right, he didn't save the penalty, but he wasn't called upon to really do anything until the 39th minute, and he had to do a sort of fingertip. It was quite an athletic save, quite an athletic dive, wasn't it, really, to tip the ball around the post. So there was lots to be buoyed about, lots to be pleased about. Lanzini, as I said, was neat and tidy in there as well, not quite as dynamic or as impressive as Flynn Downs, but I mean, everybody played their part in that, and I wasn't entirely sure that front three would function. But it did. Whatever was a false nine or whatever it might have been, in the main, Benrahma was on the left, Bowen was on the right, and Paqueta was in the middle. And you know what? They did okay. They caused the Anderlecht defence enough problems. Now, I saw some people saying, well, that front line wouldn't have caused better teams problems. Well, that doesn't really matter, does it? David Moyes not going to do that against the better teams. Well, what happened was, in this instance, David Moyes assessed the opposition. He'd looked at them just a week before and he thought, actually, I can do that. I can rest Paqueta for most of this. Antonio's, whatever, got the lurgy. Can't use him. This is what I'll do. I think Cornet would have started as the striker. If I had to, well, not put money on it, but I think if Cornet had been fit, Paqueta wouldn't have started. I think the front three would have been Benrahma, Cornet, and Bowen. And I think that would have been cool as well. So, you know, and now you're seeing the value of the squad. Actually, we've got some injuries at the moment. We've got some knocks. We've got some illness. Yet still, we're able to rest players and put out a team like that. I was impressed. I was really pleased. I'm getting quite used to this European malarkey.